This is Piyush and I'm back again with another exciting video tutorial. This is the sixth video in the series of Jenkins tutorial for beginners. If you are new to Jenkins, I would highly recommend you to check the complete playlist. Links are in the description section below and in the title bar. In this video, we'll be doing a deep dive into Jenkins pipeline as a code. If you are new to my channel, please hit the subscribe button below and the bell icon to get notified about all my upcoming videos. I have designed this tutorial keeping in mind the beginners to Jenkins pipeline. So we will start with the basic introduction of Jenkins pipeline, benefits of using it, syntax, difference between declarative and scripted pipeline, and benefits of using a Jenkins pipeline. Then we'll be doing a deep dive into declarative pipeline with the demo, which includes environment setup, agent installation, integrating your IDE with GitHub. Then we'll create a simple CI pipeline with Maven build and archive artifact stages using a demo application. Then we will use environment variables and parameters inside the pipeline and also introduce parallel stages, when expression, and a complete CI CD pipeline using stash and unstash feature of Jenkins. At the end, we'll see how you can load an external Groovy script inside the pipeline and call its method externally. So please watch the video till the end as there'll be lot more to it, and I'll be covering everything about Jenkins pipeline from a beginner to an intermediate level. A typical Jenkins pipeline or any CI/CD pipeline includes these common stages: code commit, code build, integration, testing, release, deploy, operate, followed by continuous feedback at all the stages. So Jenkins pipeline as a code is generally a tool and a process for defining your CI/CD flow as a code. Jenkins pipeline supports two syntaxes: declarative syntax and scripted syntax. Declarative syntax uses Groovy expression for flow control. However, scripted pipeline syntax uses a framework to control execution. Both syntax uses a customized DSL that is based on Apache Groovy to programmatically manipulate Jenkins object. The pipeline defines the entire continuous integration and delivery process as a code. Let's have a look at the benefits of using Jenkins pipeline. Pipeline code is generally placed at a central Git-based repository so that it can be version control and easy to track the changes. It is easy to migrate and maintain because everything resides as a code. Parallel task execution is possible instead of sequential tasks that was there in the freestyle jobs of Jenkins. We can also implement complex conditional logics, which was not possible in freestyle jobs. There is another advantage of using it, which is dynamic resource allocation and cleanup. Human intervention for manual approvals can be added to improve the security of the pipeline. Let's say you want someone to manually approve the pipeline before it actually deploys the code in your production environment. This is possible with the help of Jenkins pipeline. And it provides the functionality to resume at a certain point on failure. Let's have a look at the difference between declarative and scripted pipeline syntax. Declarative pipeline can always be resumed after an interruption, no matter what caused the interruption. However, scripted pipeline executes serially from top to down. Declarative pipeline requires only limited knowledge of Groovy syntax, and you can use your external scripts such as Bash script or Python or PowerShell inside your pipeline. However, scripted pipeline relies on Groovy expression for flow control, and extensive Groovy knowledge is required for that. It encourages a declarative programming model. Scripted is very flexible and extensible. Declarative reduces the risk of syntax errors. Scripted limitations are mostly Groovy based, and it provides a lot more functionalities than declarative pipeline. You can also use the script steps to include bits of scripted code within a declarative pipeline only when you have needs that are beyond the capabilities of declarative syntax. Scripted pipeline works well for power users with complex requirement, but beginners to Jenkins pipeline can easily mess up the whole system, and most users do not need all the flexibility it accords, right? So based on the use cases, you choose whether you have to use declarative or scripted. So it's totally based on the use cases and the knowledge that you have. Like I said, declarative is easy to learn as it just uses the framework, and inside that framework you can use the scripting language of your choice. However, if you are going with scripted pipeline, you would have to use the Groovy syntax. Let's have a look at the basic syntax of Jenkins declarative pipeline. So main pipeline file is called Jenkins file by default, but you can also customize the name as per your choice. So everything resides inside a pipeline block. You can specify the agent on which pipeline needs to be executed. If you are using multiple agents in your pipeline, then you can specify this agent as none. And if you don't care about which agent to execute the pipeline on, then you can just specify this agent as any. But here in this example, I have specified agent with the label as Linux. So this pipeline will run on the agent that has the label as Linux. Pipeline is simply a collection of multiple stages which starts from the stages block, and then stage A, stage B, and there could be many more stages. And inside stage, you specify the steps which performs the actual task execution. These tasks could be a bash script, a Python script, PowerShell, batch script, and many more. This is pretty much the basic syntax of a Jenkins declarative pipeline, but we will see many more complex examples with different pipeline features as we move forward in this video tutorial. Enough about the theory, let's get our hands dirty with the detailed demo about Jenkins pipeline. We'll try to cover each and every topic. If you had followed my tutorials till now, then you should have a Jenkins master already running either as a WAR file, as an RPM package, or as a systemctl service, or as a Docker container. Whichever method you might have used, it doesn't matter. You should have a Jenkins running as a prerequisite of Jenkins pipeline as a code tutorial. So make sure you have a Jenkins running already. If not, then follow the video. I'll put the link in the description section below as well. So as part of this tutorial, we'll be doing environment setup first. So we already have a Jenkins master running. Let's go ahead and provision dev environment as well as a production environment. So I'll go to the launch instances over here. I'll select the Ubuntu image from the list, this one. I'll keep everything as default, configure instance, and I'll add the user data script over here, which is this one. So what it will do, it will update the repository, then it will install OpenJDK 11, which is required for Jenkins master and Jenkins slave communication. Then I'll also install Apache 2. This would act as a reverse proxy to host our website or web application. And I'll click on next. I'll use the default storage, next, and then configure security group. So make sure you have certain ports open, port 80 to host your website, port 8080, port 22 to SSH into the server, port 50,000 for Jenkins master and slave communication, and so on. So I'll use an existing security group that I already created, this one. And as part of this security group, I already have port 80, 8080, 22, 25 for SMTP, and 50,000 opened. So next, click on review and launch and hit launch. I'll select the key pair, which is this one, acknowledge and launch instances. So I would need two instances, one for dev server and one for prod server. So let's go to this instance and I'll select this one. I'll just give it a name, dev server, hit save, and then I'll launch a new instance as well. So I'll click over here, image and templates and launch more instance like this. We'll have all the details that we have already provided, including the security group and the user data. I'll just review everything quickly. Hit on launch. Use the same key pair. Hit launch instances. Go over here. Once it is done, let's wait for a few seconds. And this one was our dev server. This was already created, and I'll just update this as prod server. So I'll go over here, take the public DNS, put it over here, and Apache page should be visible, which means our user data script has been executed successfully. So this one is for dev server, and the other one should be for prod server. Let's verify this one as well. Okay, so it is up now. So that means our environment setup has been done. So we have a Jenkins master, a dev server, and a prod server running. Now, as part of the next step, I'll be installing Jenkins agent on both the server dev as well as prod. So I'll go to build executor status over here, click on new node on the left, give it a name, dev server. Okay. And then I'll put the same description over here. I'll put number of executor as 2. So all the details about this I have already provided in the tutorial where I have installed Jenkins agent. So please make sure you go through that if you haven't already. If you did, then just follow along. So I'll be going through this section very quickly because I have already explained this. Moving to Jenkins. Then I'll give it a label. I'll give the same label and I'll select this option. Then I'll use the default option launch agent by connecting it to the controller. I'm not using SSH for a specific region and I've already explained that in the video. Then I'll use rest of the settings as default. I'll hit save. Okay, I'll create one more agent for prod server. Hit on new node again. Give it a name, prod server. And then this time I'll copy it from the existing dev server because I don't want to put the settings again. Hit OK. And all the details have been imported from the dev server. So I'll just quickly make some changes. Description prod server and label as well prod server. Hit on save. Okay. So now when I do this, let's go to dev server first. I have these options to run the agent from the command line. So first I'll download the agent.jar file from here, and then I'll transfer this jar file to the dev server and run this command over there. So now I'll use a file transfer utility such as FileZilla or WinSCP. So I have FileZilla already. So I'll open that. I'll copy the public DNS of the dev server. Okay. I'll put it over here, port 22, and username is Ubuntu. I've already imported the key. Quick connect, it is connected. Now I'll create another folder in this and transfer the agent.jar file from what I've downloaded to the server itself. So I have drag drop from here to here. Okay, file has been transferred. Now I'll open the putty session, hit on new session, put the host name. Okay, I'll log in as Ubuntu. Clear the screen. So I have transferred the agent.jar file in the dev server itself at this path, home Ubuntu Jenkins. So if I do ls over here, I'll see my agent.jar file over here. So in order to connect this server to the Jenkins master through JNLP agent, I just have to now run this command. I'll copy the command from here and I'll paste it over here. Make sure you add ampersand at the end so that it will run in the background and the process would not crash even if you close your SSH shell or even if it is crashes. So your Jenkins agent will still be connected to the Jenkins master. So make sure you add this ampersand at the end. Now I hit enter. And if everything is good, you should see this status as connected over here. So I'll hit enter over here and I'll go back to my page and hit refresh. This agent will be connected now. I'll perform the same step to connect a prod agent as well. So I don't have to download the agent.jar file again because this will be the same file that I've already copied. So I'll just copy the prod server public DNS IP from here, paste it over here, put port number as well. Okay, it is connected now. Now I'll copy the agent.jar file. Okay, it is connected now. Now I have to open the shell again, hit new instance. Okay. Ubuntu, and I'll clear the screen. Then I'll create a new directory. I'll copy the agent.jar file from here to Jenkins. And then I'll cd to Jenkins, and I should rename this first. So move agent.jar to, I'll remove all the special characters and blank spaces. Should be good now. I'll go back to the previous directory and I'll remove this agent.jar, and also I'll provide permissions to this directory recursively. Okay, should be good now. Go back to the same directory. Okay, now I go back to my prod server node, copy the command again, paste it over here, add %, at the end, hit, and boom. This should be connected now as well. Agent is connected. And over here, if I hit refresh, agent is connected. Go back to my Jenkins homepage and I'll now see both the agents are active now. So it is ready to execute the command provided by Jenkins master. Now, as part of the setup as well, we'll be installing an IDE so that we could make our code changes in that and integrate in real time with GitHub repository. So you could use an IDE of your choice, or you can follow me along. So I'm using Visual Studio Code, which looks something like this. So the installation steps are pretty simple. You go to google.com and then just type download Visual Studio Code, hit the first link, and here you have different options to choose it from. So you could use a Windows based, Ubuntu based, or Mac OS. So you can hit download. I've already downloaded it, so I won't be doing it again. So this is how it will look like. So once you have downloaded the VS Code installable, you should just double click it to install it as any executable you would do in Windows. So just accept that agreement, click on next, 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 install, and this should be fairly quick. Okay, so once it is installed, hit finish. And once it is installed, this would be the screen that will be presented to you. Then you go over here on the left side, you'll see something as extensions. Click over there and search for GitHub extension. So I'll search GitHub, and this is the one that you should be installing, GitHub pull request. Make sure you are installing the official extension by GitHub. So verify the publisher name over here and you should be good. Once you install this, I've already installed it before, so it is visible as this. So once you install it, you go to source control over here and click on clone repository. Then it will show you this drop down. Hit over here, clone from GitHub, and it says the extension GitHub wants you to sign in using GitHub. So click over allow, and it will open a page wherein you have to authorize yourself as a valid GitHub user. So hit continue, and then authentication would be successful. A token will be stored temporarily in your Git credential manager, and then all the remote repositories on which you have access to will be presented to you over here. So I'll clone this repository, simple Java Maven app. This is the one that we'll be using for this particular demo. So I'll click over here and I'll choose a location in my in my local drive to clone the repository. So I already had this clone before, so I'll delete it and I'll use the same folder to clone it. So I'll hit select repository location and it says cloning repository. And would you like to open the clone repository? I'll open it. Once you do that, it'll add that repository that you have downloaded into your local workspace. So this is your local workspace now. It has these folders and these many files. To make a change in any file, to push or pull the change, what you will do is you would just select the file. Let's say we'll just update the readme file and I'll add one more line after this. This is test. Okay, I'll do this. I'll do a control S to save this. And now you will show there is one change showing in your source control tab. So I'll click over here, source control, and here is your file that's been changed. So there are few stages to push the change from your local IDE to your remote repository. First, you have to stage the changes. So to stage the change, there are different options: discard the change, open the file, or to stage the change. So this is the one that we'll be clicking on. So I'll hit stage changes. Okay, so this is now staged. Now next is to commit the change. To commit the change, I'll hit over here, commit, and I'll provide a message. Test changes, hit enter, and the change has been committed to the local repository. Now the next step is to push the change to the remote repository. To do that, you see there is like at the bottom of the page, at the bottom of the tool, you would see one, that means one change is yet to be committed to the remote repository. So I'll just click over there and the change will start syncing. So once you do that, you see it's been completed and you don't see anything over here. Now let's go back to the remote Git repository to see if it already been updated. So I'll go to my project, I'll hit refresh, and the readme file we updated. So you see the change 44 seconds ago. And if you open the file, so this was the change that we just did. And now you know how you can integrate your IDE with your GitHub. So now that we have cloned the remote GitHub repository into our IDE, we'll start working on it. So this project is like a simple Java app. So if we go to src and app, you'll see app.java. This is just a hello world type application. It will print hello world message on the browser. Just go back and there is a pom.xml in which there are all the dependencies and plugin details mentioned. So this should be good. And now we'll go back to our Visual Studio Code and go to the Explorer. So let's create our first Jenkins file. So if you remember my previous lecture about declarative Jenkins pipeline, everything resides inside the pipeline block. So I'll open the pipeline, and then inside that you could specify options, agents, and different other things. So for now I'll just keep it simple because this is our first pipeline. I don't want you to be overburdened with a lot of information, so let's just keep it simple. So I'll put agent as none so that it won't run on any agent, and we can explicitly specify agent on different steps. Then everything would be there in stages. There could be multiple stages. So our first stage, let's call it build stage. And then there are steps. So steps are the actual tasks which is performed by the Jenkins stage. So let's see, echo. This is build stage. Okay. So this is our first stage. If you want to have multiple stages in a pipeline, so you could define the same using the same syntax. Let's do build test and then steps again. This is test stage And then we have one more. Let's call it build, test, and deploy. Steps again and echo. This is deploy stage. So it looks good. So let's do a quick recap what's been done so far. So pipeline is the main block which holds everything together. Okay, then we could specify agent as none, or we could provide any agent name, or we could just say agent as any. This should also work, so let's keep it this way. Then we have stages. Stages encapsulate all the stages together in a pipeline. There could be sequential stages and parallel stages. We'll see parallel stages later on, but over here these are the sequential stages which will be executed one by one. So first the build stage will be executed. It will go inside the steps, and these are the actual steps that will be performed by this stage. The same way, once this is completed, the next stage will be triggered, which is test stage, and steps would perform the actual action, which is printing this is test stage on the screen. Then the same way deploy stage will be triggered. So if any of the stage failed, the pipeline will terminate itself then and there, and rest of the stages will not be continued. Right, so I'll just click on save. I'll hit Control S, go to source control and push the changes. First Jenkins file, enter, and then push the change. I'll create a new item, and this time I'll select the job type as pipeline. So if this option is not visible over here, make sure you have pipeline plugin installed. So go to the update Jenkins, and so go to manage plugins and install the pipeline plugin, and this would be visible if it's not already there. So I'll just give this a name, test pipeline, select pipeline, hit OK. Now I'll keep everything as default other than the git URL. So there are two options to run the pipeline. Either you could just put your pipeline script over here, or you could use a SCM like GitHub. So I'll select pipeline script for SCM, this one, and then it'll ask me SCM type. It is a git based, and the repository URL. So repository URL, I get it from here. I'll go back to my project, click over here, code, SSH, copy, I'll paste it over here. Now I'll select my credentials. Error is gone now. Okay. And the default name of the Jenkins file is this one. So make sure you have the Jenkins file on the root folder of the Jenkins, on the root folder of the repository. But for in our case, if we go back over here, you see Jenkins file is there inside the Jenkins folder, right? So make sure you update that detail over here. So this is our absolute path for the Jenkins file. Okay, so there is a small J on the root folder. Okay, I'll hit apply and save. Now let's see if it works. I'll click on build now. So if you go to this pipeline, it says obtain Jenkins file from this repository, from this particular path that we specified. First is node. We specified node as any. I'm not sure if there are any agents that are running. Okay, so my agents are down and my master doesn't have any executor. So for the timing, I'll just update the master to 1. So I'll go to manage nodes and clouds over here, built-in node, configure, and I'll update the executor to 1 because we don't have any other agents running. So for this demo, I'll just update it to 1 and I'll revert it later on. And as soon as we updated it to 1, it started that job and it might have completed already. Let's see. So this was our pipeline and you see this is success. If we click on that and hit on console output, you'll see all the details, all the actions that it performed. First, it downloaded the Jenkins file from the remote repository. Then it was waiting for the executor to be available because we didn't have any available executor. When we updated the master executor to 1, then only it picked up the job and then it started running on the Jenkins workspace. Then it initialized the workspace. Then it cloned the GitHub repository. It downloaded the project and then it triggers the pipeline. It says the first stage, this is build stage, this is test stage, and this is deploy stage. So these were all the messages that we intended to print as part of our pipeline execution, and this is what it did. If we go back to the pipeline, you will see this view as well. It will show you some other details like this is green because it was completed, else it would have been red over here. And it will show you the time that each stage took. So they were in milliseconds and the average time for the full run. I hope this is making some sense now. Let's move ahead. Now that we have seen the basic structure of Jenkins pipeline, let's go ahead and start the agent that is running on a dev server so that we could offload the work from our Jenkins master to dev server. So I'll open the Jenkins in a new tab. I could go from manage Jenkins or just hit this node over here, dev server. Says the connection was broken. It was because I shut down the server. I'll just copy this command from here and I've already logged in to my server. This was the SSH that I did. So let's go into the directory where agent.jar file is there. It was there in the Jenkins directory, I suppose. Yes, there it is. So I've copied the command, pasted it here and added an ampersand at the end to run it in the background. Once I hit enter, it will start the agent. The info message over here shows it is connected. So I'll go back to my Jenkins page. Now if I hit refresh, my agent is connected and it is ready to serve the workload. Okay. So now I'll go back to my Jenkins pipeline over here. So earlier we did agent as any. Now we'll provide this a label. So sometimes if you are a beginner to Jenkins file, this syntax could be a bit confusing, but don't worry about it. It is really easy to remember and you could generate it yourself as well. I'll show you how you can do it. So let's go back to your Jenkins and where you have your Jenkins pipeline over here on the last tab, you'll see pipeline syntax. So this is where you could generate your pipeline syntax. So I'll just open this in a new tab. So this is basically a snippet generator. There are two options, snippet generator. This is for scripted pipeline. There are different options that you could choose from. And then there is a declarative pipeline as well. So if I click over here, declarative directive generator. So these are the basic syntaxes. So let's say we need to specify which agent to use when to execute a step. So earlier we did agent as any. So agent is the sample directive that we chose here and type is run on any. And when I hit generate declarative directive, this is what we used already, right? But now we want it to run on a certain agent. So I'll hit over here, check the label, run on agent machine matching a label and provide the label name. So let's see our agent name was dev server. So I'll provide the same label name over here, dev server, and now click again and it will generate this syntax for me. So I'll just copy this and I'll go back to my Jenkins file and paste the content over here. So this is what we needed, right? Same way like the steps that we have already generated, if you see, there are options for these as well in the sample directive. See, stages, then you could add multiple stage, let's say build stage, and this is stage will contain step. Let's add a step as well, and you can add multiple stages. So stage 2 was test, and that's it. Hit over generate directive. So you'll see this is similar to what we already have. Stages, then stage, build, then step. Over here we could mention our task, and then stage, test, step, and the same way. So this is pretty simple. Okay, so now we have this. We have specified to run this pipeline on the dev server. Now we'll provide the actual build command. So instead of this echo statement, we'll provide a shell script. So this is nothing but a simple Maven command, which is Maven clean package to compile the code and to build the jar file. Okay, so this stage will now build our package. I'll just remove the rest of the stages for now. So this is stage deploy test. I don't need this right now, so I'll remove it. Now we'll add one more post condition inside this. So to check it, declarative generator. So you see post stage or build condition, and you select the condition in which you want to trigger this post stage. So post stage is associated with the stage itself, and it will run based on a certain condition. So let's say you want to run on post only if the build, only if the stage is successful, then you select that option. So for that it would be this one, run if the build stage is success. You could select multiple options as well. Okay, hit this, and I'll just copy this step from here, and you could select failure status as well, or aborted, failure, or unstable. There are like a lot of options you can choose from. So I'll go back to the Jenkins file, and inside the same stage after the steps, I'll add the section that I've just copied from the declarative syntax generator. So this is the post action. Okay, so this is a post message success, and I'll just keep it here. Okay, and over here I'll just put the archive artifact command to basically archive the artifact generated by this particular process. So I have it handy over here. I'll just copy this. This particular post build action, what it will do, it will check if the status is success of this particular stage. If it is success, then it will run this command archive artifact to archive the artifact that was generated inside the target directory. And this is Jenkins workspace **. So Jenkins workspace, then target directory, and inside that whatever war file is generated, it will archive that artifact to be used later in the pipeline. So when you run the pipeline again with the stage that has a deployment step, so you can use this particular artifact to deploy the file instead of compiling it again. So this is again a simple Jenkins file with just one stage, which will build the package and it will archive that package to be used later by the pipeline. So once I do that, I'll just save the changes and I'll just update it. And I'll just push the changes, build an archive, enter and sync it. Let's just verify our changes. Okay, our changes are here. Let's go back to our pipeline and run the pipeline again. Build now. And now it says Maven command not found. Make sure you have the tool installed and it is referenced inside the pipeline as well. So we did install the tool. So if you go back to Jenkins over here, manage Jenkins, and then global tool configuration. And if you go down, so I'll hit Maven installation. So our Maven is set to install automatically for this particular version. So we need to specify this Maven installation in a Jenkins file. Let's go back to the pipeline syntax generative. Hit on declarative directive generator and then select tools from here and then add Maven. Now it will show you which version of Maven you could use. So there is one that's been installed already. So hit generate directive and copy this. Go back to your Jenkins file, add this option before stages and then save the changes and just push the changes. Tools to the pipeline, hit enter, sync the changes. And now it should be able to find the Maven installation. So let's go back to our test pipeline. So let's use a web application project instead of a command line project. So I'll just go back to my repository. I guess this was the one. Okay, it has a web app and index.jsp file. Let's use this one instead of the main one. So I'll copy it from here, configure it, update this one. Okay. And let's check out this project instead of the other one. Clone from GitHub and use the repository Maven project, this one. I'll use the same repository. Add to workspace. So it will add another folder to the workspace. Let's initialize the repository. Right now there are two folders, one that we've created previously and another, this is the new one. So I'll just copy the Jenkins file that we already created for this one. And I'll replace the one that is there in Maven project. So Maven project is the one that we will now work with. All right. So this is, I'll just close this one. Remove folder from workspace. Okay, this should be good now. Okay, now let's just update the changes, save all and commit. Okay, and let's push the changes. Okay, let's see if Jenkins file is updated. Right, Jenkins file has latest details. Okay, so now we are using a var file based project instead of a jar file. Let's go to our test pipeline again and click on configure and update the Jenkins file location, because earlier we used to have the Jenkins file inside a subdirectory called Jenkins, but now because we have updated the project, we'll be using a different project now, and for that the Jenkins file is in the root directory itself. Let's verify that. So if we go to that, so this is the project that we are using and Jenkins file is over here in the root directory itself. So I'll use that, hit apply and save, and let's build it now. Click on console output. Okay, because we have changed the project, that is why it is installing the Maven again. And now you see it's archiving the artifacts and the status is success. So what it did, it says building war file. So war file has been built, Maven project, server, web app, these status is success and hence the stage is successful. And then as part of the post build action, it archived the artifacts. So if we click over here to the test pipeline, now you'll see you have a web app.war file generated. Now this war file, you could just click over here and it will be downloaded for you, or this artifact is available for rest of the pipelines as well. And if you can verify it from the backend as well, you go to this, the same folder target, clear the screen. I'll have to go back. Okay, now it's not in the target, but it's there in web app. web app and target. And here you see your web app.var file. So this is what we needed. All right. Now in this section, we'll see how we can use environment variables and parameters inside the Jenkins file. So to use the environment variables, it's pretty simple. Use this environment. It's basically a key value pair. So I'll give name equal to Piyush. Okay, and then you can just use it with dollars. I'll just add an echo statement over here. Go hello dollar name, and it will print my name over here with the help of the environment variable. The next is parameter. So parameter is also simple, but let's generate it with the help of a syntax generator. So I'll go back to my pipeline. By the way, this is this URL over here. I'll provide this in the description section as well. This is really important. So it'll have a lot of details about all the different type of sections inside the Jenkins pipeline, how you can use that syntax and everything. So keep it handy with you. This is really important. Okay, so I'll go back to my pipeline over here, hit on pipeline syntax, declarative, and then select parameters from here. So there are different type of parameters that you could use. So and the difference between parameter and variable is variable you can use inside the pipeline and you cannot update it at the runtime, while parameters can be updated at runtime. All right, so you could use a boolean parameter, choice parameter, credential, file, password, run, string, anything. So I'll just basically use a simple string parameter. I'll give it a name, call it last name, default value. This would be my last name, so I'm using this and I'll hit this one. Okay, so this has been generated. Copy this, go back to my Jenkins pipeline, and inside the pipeline block after the agent, I'll just paste this parameter. Okay, so this is how we have initialized environment variables. This is how we have initialized parameters. And to use parameter inside your build, you use this syntax, which is basically dollar and then params dot and the name of the parameter, which is last name. All right, let's save it and see if it works. Let's go back to our pipeline and run it. Let's see if it's okay. Yeah, it's been done. Let's run it now. Okay, so it says hello Piyush Sachdeva. So this was the variable that we've used. This was the parameter. And now when you go to the pipeline again, now instead of the build option, it will show you build with parameters. And when you click over there, it will ask you the value of the last name because we have used it as a parameter and the default value was this. We could update the default value over here. All right, and when you build it, it will use this value as the parameter value. I hope this is clear now. Let's move on to our next section. In this section, we'll see how we can run stages in parallel instead of running it sequentially. So let's add one more stage after the build stage, which is stage test. Let's say we have a requirement wherein we need to run test on multiple servers, and to save the execution time, we can run it parallelly because it has no impact, right? So I'll just do this stage test A, then we specify parallel stage test A. I mean, that needs to be run on one machine. I'll do it echo statement. This is test A. And then there is one more stage, which is test B. Echo. This is test B, and this needs to be run on the second machine. So this stage is closed here, this is closed here, this parallel is closed here, and this stage is closed here. So this is good. And now we would want this post build action to be triggered only when the tests are passed. That means these stages are passed. So let's copy this post action from here. I'll just cut it from here and paste it after this stage. So this will be part of this test stage. And once these two stages are finished and successful, only then this post build action will be performed. So this stage test is the parent stage, and test A and test B will be the nested stage, which would run in parallel with each other. And these should be inside steps. So if you see the previous format, it was stages, stage, and then steps. So stage and then steps. So I'll put this statement over here, and the same way steps. Okay. Now I'll save the changes. Right. Okay, let's go back to our pipeline and run it again. Okay, so it's building the package, and then so this was test A, test B. And how would you make sure that it ran in parallel? So you see parallel branch test A, test B, that means they ran in parallel. There is one more thing which you can check it from. So what you can do is you can install this cool plugin which is called Blue Ocean. You might have heard of it if you have ever worked with Jenkins, or if you are a Jenkins aspirant. So you go to your plugin manager, search for the available Blue Ocean. Okay, install this. Okay, there are a lot of dependent plugins with it, so it will take few minutes, I guess. And wait for it. It's a success. There are some failure messages. All right, so I'll go to my pipeline and I'll hit refresh. And now I see over here another option, that is open Blue Ocean. So if I click over there, so this is again a nice UI. The other one is classic Jenkins, and you can switch from this version to the previous version from here. You see it says go to classic. So if you click over there, you would go to the previous version. So let's click it and let's go to the latest run that was there. Okay, so there are different options: pipeline, changes, test, artifacts. So this artifact was generated, and this is the pipeline log as well. So if I go to pipeline, I don't see anything because it's not been installed, I guess. Okay, it says it might require Jenkins restart. Let's see if the restart would work. I'll just log in. I'll go to test pipeline, go to the latest run, click open Blue Ocean. And yeah, now I see the details. Okay, so basically it has these many stages. So first was build stage, then it was test stage. So you see the parallel lines for test A and test B. That means they ran in parallel and it was part of this stage test. So first build was triggered. If you click over there, you'll see these were the steps and these were the std out messages generated from it. It won't show you the debug details unless it is specified, but here you'll see the standard messages. All right, and this was the print statement as well. And for test A and test B the same way. We printed this. This is test A and this is test B. It provides some additional functionalities on top of Jenkins, and like the nice enhanced UI is one of the feature people use it. Okay, so if you see this, it will be easier to understand the flow of pipeline. When we'll progress this tutorial further, and when we add more stages, when we make this a complex pipeline, then you'll see this blue ocean will be really helpful for you to understand the pipeline flow. Now let's take this pipeline a step further. We'll be adding the deployment steps now. We'll be looking into some more advanced features such as stash and unstash, choice parameter, deployment to dev, deployment to prod, and how we can use when expression to trigger a particular stage or to disable a particular stage. Let's have a look. So this is a Jenkins pipeline. Now instead of the string parameter, this was just for the test purpose. We'll add some more meaningful parameter over here. Let's add a choice parameter which will ask if you want to deploy on dev or prod. So again, you don't need to remember the syntax. Let's go to the pipeline. And we have a pipeline syntax directive generative over here. So I'll select the parameter options and choose the choice parameter. Give it a name. Let's call it select environment. Add the choices over here. So I'll add two choices, dev and prod, and hit generate directive. Okay, just copy this from here or just copy this line because you already had that parameter line, and replace the value over here. Right, so we have added a choice parameter which will ask before triggering the pipeline whether you want to deploy in dev or prod. Then in the build stage, we'll add one more step, which is because by default, if we use this command Maven clean package, it will run the test cases as well. So we'll be skipping the test cases using the dskip equal to true, like this parameter over here. And I'll remove this one as well. So I just added this parameter to skip the test cases, and in our Maven test cases over here, we'll be adding the command to run the test cases, which is simply this command sh maven test, and I'll copy the same in test B as well. So this command will run the actual test using the test cases that we have written, and that is the part of our repository. Okay, but now to run these test cases, we need an environment, an agent, which will execute the test cases. So I'll run this both the stages in dev server. So I'll add this line over here, simply agent label is dev server, and I'll add the same over here as well in stage 2. Because these two stages are inside the parallel stage, so make sure you should not be adding that agent step over here in the parent stage. Instead, it will be there in the child stages like we have added. Now the next step is, so we have built the code, we have packaged it, we ran the test cases, and then we archive the artifacts. So instead of using archive artifact, we can also use another Jenkins pipeline feature, which is stash and unstash. So stash is something that will download the copy of your artifacts in a temporary cache location, and then you can unstash the same in a different server as well. So let's say you have created your build on server A, you package the code, and then you stash the code in server A, and when you run unstash command in server B, it will just simply transfer your artifact from server A to server B. I'll show you how it will look like. So instead of this command over here, I'll replace this with this command. So directory, like this is an Apache syntax to change the directory. So this command will run inside this particular directory, web app target. So this is the directory where our war file will be generated as part of the build inside the Jenkins agent. So the complete path would be Jenkins workspace, web app, and target. Jenkins workspace, we don't have to mention it explicitly. It will be there already. And then the syntax of stash is stash name Maven build. So you can give this a unique name, and then you can define the conditions. So it includes only the var files that is there in this particular directory. So you have stashed it over here. All right. Now the next command is, once you have stashed it, we have to unstash it somewhere. So to do that, I'll add one more stage. So let's see where this stage is ending. This is stage test. I'll create a new stage. I'll call it deploy dev. Right. I'll add a when expression as well. So we don't want this stage to run on every condition. It should only run when we have selected the choice parameter as dev. So this is the syntax how you can use a when expression before you start the stage. Okay, so when expression, and then inside this expression curly braces, you can write your expression like params dot our parameter name was select environment equal to dev. So whenever this condition satisfies, I'll add one more condition as well, which is before agent true. So before agent is something that will, like as the name suggests, it will check this when expression before it actually triggers the agent. Let's say I'll just add the agent over here, which is agent label as dev server. But if we use this expression over here before agent is true, it will first evaluate the condition. If this when expression is true, only then it will check for the agent. So this step is really important. Okay. Now we have added the agent as well. Now let's start our steps. So like we did stash, we'll be now doing unstash. So we'll be changing the directory to var www html. This is the default directory where our Apache web pages will be served from. Okay. And inside this directory, we'll be doing unstash, and then we'll provide the name of the stash file. Like over here, we used Maven build. So I'll copy the same and I'll paste it over here. So it's pretty simple. We stashed it somewhere from a directory from a particular agent. It could be any agent. It could be Jenkins server. It could be dev server, prod server, any build server. And then we unstashed the same files, the same artifact on a different server like this. Okay. Because we are using Apache web server over here, it would not auto explode the war file. We have to explicitly add the steps over here. So for that, I'll just simply write a few Unix commands or a small shell script. So I'll just go to the same directory www html, and then I'll run the command jar xvf webapp.war. So this will explode the war file in the same directory. And I'll close the sh over here. So this is done. Our steps are closed over here. Stage is closed over here. This is for the main stages and this is for the pipeline. Okay, this looks good till now. Okay, I'll just simply commit the changes to our master branch. Okay, let's quickly verify the changes from GitHub. It just got updated. Let's see if our changes are there. So this is there, should be good. We'll be doing one more step. So because this stage will deploy the dev environment, we'll be first logging into the dev server, which is this one for me. And I'll go to Apache directory, etc Apache 2. And over here, there'll be a file apache2.conf. Just vi this file with sudo command. Okay, and search for module. Okay, I don't find anything. So go to the end of the file. In like you could use the editor of your choice. I am comfortable with Vim, so that is what I am using. So go to the end of the file in insert mode and add these lines over here. Okay. So Apache 2 by default it takes index.html as the home page. For this particular application we had index.jsp. So over here I'm mentioning that wherever it will find index.html or index.jsp, it will take that as the default home page inside the where www.html directory. All right, so I'll just save the file and I'll quickly do a Apache restart. Systemctl restart Apache 2 should be good. Okay, now I'll run the pipeline. So I'll again go back to the classic mode. Okay, if I do build with parameter, our changes will not be reflected here like the choice parameter because this pipeline hasn't downloaded the latest source code from GitHub yet. So let me just quickly build it and I'll just cancel it right away. Cancel this. Okay, it should have downloaded the Jenkins file. Okay, it had downloaded the Jenkins file. So let's go back to the pipeline again and do build with parameter now. Now you see the choice parameter that you have added. All right. So I'll use this one dev and click on build. Let's see what happens now. So I'll open the console output. Let's open this in Blue Ocean. And let's just follow along. So it is building. It did Maven build, and let's see if this is running the test cases now. So here it is running the shell script of test cases. All right, so test cases have been executed and it deployed it to dev. Let's see the steps that it followed for the dev deployment. First, it checked it out from the version control. Then it uses the tool Maven, and then it fetches the environment variable. It restored the previously stashed file. This is the step that we have added. And also in build, you would see something like stash. Okay, it is not there because it was part of the post step. So going back again. Okay, so yeah, so it restored the previously stashed file, and then inside this particular folder, it exploded the war file. And let's see if deployment was successful or not. So I'll just copy the dev server public IP DNS, this one, and I'll just open this in a new tab. And this is our application, Hello World version 2. This is what we had in our index.jsp. Now that we are comfortable with running CI CD pipeline till dev environment, let's go ahead and add the step for prod deployment as well. So I'll go back to my pipeline again. Okay. Over here, after the deploy dev, I'll add one more stage. Let's call it deploy prod, and I'll just copy everything from here and I'll make the changes inside that. Copy from Ventil here. Right, so instead of select environment equal to dev, it should be prod, and then label should be prod server. So this is the agent that should be running on the prod server itself, and rest of the steps should be same. But again, we have to make one more change to the apache.conf file like the way we did with the dev server itself. Okay, we'll do that shortly after we're done making changes to this Jenkins file. So I wanted to also show you one more thing. So like we are writing arbitrary scripts over here, like shell scripts and everything over here, we could create a shell script and put that in our same GitHub repository and just execute the script with the name over here. Okay, that's one way. The other way is we could just write external Groovy scripts, and the same way we can load the script in our Jenkins file. I will show you how we can do that. So let's create a new file first. In the same directory, in the same root directory, I'll create one file. Let's call it script.groovy. right? And I'll paste this content over here. So it will just create one hello method with the content. This is the message from Groovy script. And let's inside the build stage itself, let's add one more script. So script is something arbitrary script that you could write over here, or you could just load external Groovy file. You could also write your scripted pipeline logic over here. This is the same way. Okay, so I'll just write file equal to load and then the name of that Groovy script.groovy. Okay, equal to load script.groovy, and then inside the file there was a hello method. So you see this method name was hello, so I'll just call it file.hello. So I'm calling this method. So over here, before this clean package, before making the build, it should print hello. This message is from the Groovy script, like this. Okay, I'll add one more line just to differentiate. Add some asterisks. Okay, this is done. Okay, also because we are doing prod deployment over here, we need to make sure that someone is not triggering the prod deployment accidentally. We need to make sure that production deployment was approved and it was not triggered by someone accidentally. So we'll add an approval stage as well. So inside the deploy prod over here, we'll add this step which says input message is deployment approved. If this is approved, only then the below would be triggered, else it will be aborted. And by default, it will hold the build for 5 days. If it is not approved till then also the pipeline will be aborted. This particular task, sometimes there are many tasks like this one and there are few more which is not present in the directive generator over here. So if you click over here, you won't see this. In that case, this particular URL is your friend. So I'll share this URL link in the description section as well. So you'll find all the different things that we have discussed over here. So in this case, this is input step. All right, so input step is message, should we continue, okay, and submitter name, and so on, right? So you could search on this page whatever you need, it'll all be there. All the different things that we have discussed like agent, post, stages, environment, options, parameter, triggers, everything would be here in this page as well, right? So make sure you bookmark this page and you follow this page all along. All right, so we'll go back to our Jenkins pipeline over here. Okay, so these steps have been performed, done. Let's save these changes. Please save it and commit both the files in our Git repository. Final pipeline. I'll push the changes. Let's see if our changes are visible. It's a good practice to verify the changes before you trigger the build, just to make sure you are not wasting any time. So it says script.groovy is here and then our Jenkins file is also updated. So this should be good. Now we'll be making the other change, which is updating the apache.conf file. So I've logged into my prod server over here. So I'll go to the directory etc apache2. I'll locate the file apache2.conf. It's a good practice to make a backup before making any change to any of the Unix file because the changes are irreversible. So I always make sure that I make a backup of the file before making any changes. BKP, I'll give it date as well, 17th March 2022. Okay, so I have my backup right over here in case if I need to revert the changes. So I should have the backup, right? So I'll do a VI on this file and I add these contents over here. So I'll go to end of the file and I've added these 3 lines at the end. Right, should be good. Now let's go back to our Jenkins pipeline and this time we'll trigger it for prod deployment. Here's a pipeline. Exit. Build with parameters. Let's select prod this time. Hit build. Okay, let's see. Okay, this is running. Let's go to Blue Ocean. Okay, it says build is completed. Test cases are running. So these are running parallelly. So if you see, dev deployment stage has been skipped because we have selected deploy prod. Okay, and before doing the deployment, it is asking for the approval whether to click on proceed or abort the deployment. So only if it is approved, we could click on proceed and then it will proceed further with the prod deployment. This is again we do to avoid any accidental deployment to prod. Okay, if we don't do anything over here and leave it as it is, it will just wait for 5 days and then it will time out and abort the pipeline. Okay, so I'll just click proceed over here. And it says failed to extract Maven build tar.gz. Let's see the exact error. Access denied. So make sure your directory in which the web application is there has enough permission. So I'll just log into my prod server. This is my prod server. I'll go to this particular directory. I actually wanted you to see the error. That is why I have kept it as it is as part of this video. So you see the index.html, the file that is already present. It doesn't have much permissions other than from the root directory. So I'll do a sudo chmod -r 777 var html and all the directory recursively. Okay, hit clear and it should be good now. Let's re-trigger the pipeline. So you could run the pipeline from a particular stage. If you don't want to create the build again, you could just trigger that particular stage as well. Okay, but for this time, let's do a rebuild. Okay, I'll open Blue Ocean again. Test cases have been triggered. It is asking again the deployment approval for prod. I hit proceed. And deployment has been completed this time. See, the steps have been performed. So let's see if our website is up or not. So prod server, I'll copy the public DNS from here. I'll open this in a new tab. And I don't see the pipeline. I don't see the web page. It's because we already have a HTML file over there in the same folder. Okay, so I'll just remove this index.html. Systemctl restart Apache 2. Okay, hit refresh. Now we see our application up and running over here. I hope this video was somewhat beneficial for you and you would have learned something out of it. If you did, please don't forget to hit the like button below and feel free to comment on the video if you are facing any issues. All the links and source code I have uploaded to my GitHub repository and the links are in the description section below like always. Thank you very much for watching the video and I will see you again with a new video very soon.